Conference Men's Basketball Coaches Teleconference. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you would like to ask a question during the conference, please press star then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. I will now turn the call over to Mike Kern. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Stephanie. And we do have our first coach on the call. It is Greg Lansing of Indiana State. Indiana State opens its week this week with a game at Southern Illinois on Wednesday. At this time, we'd like to welcome Coach Lansing to the line. Good morning, Greg.
Morning, Mike.
I know you haven't had a lot of time with your game yesterday against Wichita State to take a good look at Southern Illinois, but what can you tell us about your next game, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, obviously, getting back late last night, just started watching them a little bit this morning after going over Wichita. Got taught a lesson by the best team in the league, the second half especially yesterday, and we got to learn from it. We really do. I think we're a pretty good team that works awfully hard, but still making repeated mistakes. And you go on the road in this league, and you're not going to be able to do that and get away with it. And Barry's just done an unbelievable job, coming off maybe some struggles in the past, and what they've added to this team I really like. And what I've seen of him so far, obviously one of the best players in the league and a dynamic scorer in Anthony Bean. And Barry's teams always play really hard. They guard you, they take stuff away from you, they fight you like crazy, and nothing's easy. And we've had, oh my goodness, I think every time we play it's a tight game and it's a battle. So we're gonna have to get rested up a little bit and prepare hard and just to be able to go down there and have a chance.
Thank you, Greg. Let's get now to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Greg Lance.
Press star and the number 1 to ask your question. Star and the number 1. Our first question comes from Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, good morning, Greg.
Good morning,
I wanted to ask you a couple things. There's been a lot of talk about the rules and all that. Scoring is up across the league. I think 7 of the 10, 8 of the 10 score more, 8 of the 10 are allowing more. But 7 of the 10 are shooting worse from three-point land. So what can you tell me about if the rules are really making that big of a difference?
Oh, Harry, it's a good question, and it's something to talk about, but I really don't pay any attention to it. I think both teams on the floor deal with the officiating the way they do. I think the officials have a tough job, and it's hard to be consistent. But as I said before, I think they got the word out there early, so I think all the staffs dealt with it, do their own due diligence and practice and talking to their teams and getting prepared. So I don't know if that has some huge effect on more scoring, maybe because the clock stopped and people are shooting more free throws. I don't know, but it's more of the shooting percentages are down. I don't know if it has much to do with people just really trying to drive, and get fouled and doing those things. But I wouldn't be able to, I haven't studied it or anything, be able to say if that's the difference. I just think that the officials got the word out. They're doing their best to call it the way it is. I know Eddie Jackson in our league, he sends out stuff and says, stay the course to the officials and keep doing what they're doing. Hard part is being consistent, and as basketball teams do, I think the officials try to do the same thing.
And then I'm also thinking about just looking at some of the freshmen around the league, and can you talk a little bit about Rickman and Page?
Rickman and who?
And Page.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess he was here last year. We redshirted him. Well, I think Amandre, he hadn't played very long. He started playing, I think, his freshman year in high school, and just watching him, I think he could be one of the best big guys to ever play here if he wants to. And he seems to want to. He's learning. He's struggling with a couple injuries throughout the year, but he's provided some really big moments for us this year and helped us a lot. He's got to keep growing and maturing and getting better and keep working on his body. And he's got the ability. He's got the potential to be very, very good. And with losing TJ before the start of the year, our starting center, he got thrown in. We couldn't redshirt him. He had to play this year for us and help us. And he sticks with it. He sticks with it. He's young and. try to develop individual. We do an individual workout, and then we'll practice our team practice and do that stuff. And staff does a great job of getting these guys better. We recruit kids that want to work on their own, so we think throughout the year they continue to get better. They're just not coming in and punching the clock and being at practice when they have to be at practice. So we're a program that prides ourselves on getting better individually and as a team throughout the year.
I know, obviously, you have Southern Illinois first, but another big game this weekend against Evansville. When you evaluated the first game against Evansville this year, what did you kind of see as some of the differences in that hard-fought game here in Evansville?
Well, they're every bit as good as we knew where they were, and I watched the game of them at Wichita, too, where they could have easily won that. I think they're right up there with Wichita as one of the best teams in the league, and the rest of us are kind of trying to fight and find our way and do those things. But when they're going to do their thing. They're going to be themselves, and they're going to play their tail off. They're going to fight you. Nothing is easy. It's not easy to guard them. It's not easy to score against them. I didn't think we played particularly well. I'm sure Marty didn't think they played particularly well, but it kind of looks like that when these two teams play each other because we make it hard on each other. And we had a 1-point lead with 5.5 to go, I think, and they just they've made a good run. Well, DJ made a 8-0 run himself, and that can happen. He's a great player, and they got 2 first-teamers returning and a bunch of really good players around them, really smart players, and it'll be a slugfest like it always is.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Greg, that was your final question. Thanks for your time, and
Thanks.
Good luck this week.
Thank you.
See you, Greg. All right, bye-bye. We do have Coach Ben Jacobson in Northern Iowa, and Northern Iowa playing Wichita State at home on Wednesday. Later in the week, they will be at Illinois State on Saturday. Morning, Jake.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
Let's talk about Wichita State. They're coming off of a Sunday win, yesterday's win against Indiana State, a 20-point home win. They're playing at a very high level right now, and talk about the Shockers coming to your place on Wednesday.
Yeah, they are, and I think one of those things that certainly everybody in our league knew was coming when they got healthy, and it's interesting a little bit that when they don't have Van Vliet and a couple of the other guys that were injured early in the year, and they drop a couple to really good teams, that nationally their name goes away a little bit when. For all of us that have coached and played in this league, and everybody surrounding our league knows exactly who they are and exactly how good they are. So, with them healthy now and having an opportunity to, looks like have almost everybody in their lineup, they look a lot like what we thought they would look like, and that's a top 25 type team. So, they're playing very good. They're doing the things that they've done year in and year out. They defend you hard. Obviously, offensive rebounding is a big key anytime you play against Wichita State. You've got to find a way to move them around a little bit and create some space so you can rebound the basketball. And then you're playing against 2 of the better players or even best players that our league has seen in certainly a long, long time. So as we know, terrific team.
Thanks, Coach. Let's get down to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Ben Jacobson.
Again, if you would like to ask a question, star then the number 1. Our first question is from Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, Ben, just crunched a bunch of numbers and found out that almost all of you are scoring more points than last year, and fairly significantly so, and giving up more. Do you directly relate that to the rules? Is there something different? And then when I looked at the numbers, most of the people aren't shooting that many more free throws. So what do you attribute it to, if anything?
Yeah, for our team, Harry, is that specifically to our team
kind of
or generally?
The whole league, everybody is scoring more. 8 of the 10 teams are scoring more and allowing more, and that's true for your team. And I just wonder if you attribute that to the rules or something different.
Yeah, I'd say across the board. I think the rules, defensively and the hand checks out front, the freedom of movement in terms of screening, those types of things, or cutters being able to get places. So the offense has got got more of an advantage, if you will, with the way that the game is being called now, and that's one of the things that we knew was coming with the rule changes, and I think a lot of that has been good. And then obviously you've got more possession simply because the shot clock went from 35 to 30. So so there are some more possessions. But I think bigger than that, it's guys have figured out that that you can't put a hand on anybody, and because of that, as you mentioned, it's not necessarily a lot more free throws being shot. I think the players have adjusted to that, Harry, and I think that's been a big part of it. That so you're going to see more guys drive it and get to the basket because there isn't a hand check, or guys do not want to get called for a foul. So there are more situations where guys are able to get to some spots on the floor, and I think that's been a part of the increase in scoring. And so I think a lot of that's been good for the game. Now, us specifically, Harry, we defensively, haven't been as good, and in part, up front we're not as experienced. We're playing 3 sophomores up front, and moving Jesperson to the power forward really puts us in a spot where we're playing 4 guards, and so we aren't as physical up front, and at times that's impacted our ability to defend, and it's impacted our rebounding, which is it hasn't been as good for us at that end.
And then, Ben, if I could, I'm trying to look at a bunch of the freshmen, and I know you've got Wichita coming up later. McDuffie, how good do you think he can be? They're outstanding freshmen.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to be terrific. The thing that really been impressed with Harry is his ability to defend and rebound. That's something that you don't always see from young players. Obviously he does a very good job at the offensive end of the floor. He looks good when he shoots the basketball. He looks good when he drives the basketball. He looks like he's got the ability to score in between the rim and the 3-point line. And obviously he's got size and length. But he's looked impressive defending against some of the better guards in our league already. Watching him on film against Anthony Bean, watching him on film against Greg's got him defending Ballantyne at times in that game. So he's looked good there, and he's looked good in rebounding. And sometimes those 2 areas don't come around for guys for a little while. So it appears he's going to be terrific.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks, Harry.
Your next question comes from Paul Sutherland-Trop with the Wichita Eagle.
Hello, Ben.
Some of the
offensive. I'm doing well. Some of the offensive struggles you're going through here in Valley Play. How would you describe them? I guess it would attribute them to what?
Yeah, Paul. That's the last 3 halves that we have played. The second half at Indiana State and then the game against Loyola. That's as much as we have struggled at the offensive end of the floor. I was looking through some of our numbers and what we've done, and we've been at 1 point per possession or above 1 point in all but I think 3 of our games before Loyola. And so we've been a fairly efficient and we've been a fairly good offensive team up until really the last game and a half. And I think part of it is you get into league play and you get a couple games into league play, and teams understand that the ball screen involving Wes in the ball screen is a big part of what we do, and we're going to try to move that around and find different ways to get him cut loose with that ball screen so he can get downhill. And if there's help provided with Bo and with Paul and with Jeremy, guys that shoot the basketball, teams in our league obviously know that's where we're going to start our offense. And so I would tell you, 2 things. One, I've got to do a better job of moving guys around. I've got to do a better job of helping our guys get in spots that they can have some confidence and they can be comfortable with what we're doing on offense. And then 2, Paul, we've got to continue to work to develop a guy in the block. And Bennett Cook is shooting, just north of 70% from the field, and he's played well in our conference games. And when he's had opportunities, he's been very productive. And so we've got to keep finding ways to involve him and have teams have to defend the low block. So developing Bennett some more. Ted Friedman, Clint Carlson, are the 2 young big guys. Working to involve them some more and putting more pressure on a team's defense by developing that post player. Those would be the 2 things, Paul, that we've got to keep working at.
You've got a veteran group. Is it easier to make changes with these guys? I mean, have they been through some of the things they need to change or do differently, and they can get back to that quickly, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think in a lot of ways, when you've got some older guys, for us, Wes, Bo, and Paul as seniors, Jeremy as a junior, and Wyatt played quite a bit last year as a freshman. Those 5 guys, and the 5 of them being our perimeter guys. So they've got the basketball in their hands. They're the ones that would be more responsible for making some of these, making some little adjustments and working to make things better and easier for us on offense. Having that experience in the backcourt, I think will certainly help us.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Paul.
Jake, that was your last question. Thanks for your time. Good luck this week.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Bye-bye. Next on the line with us, Coach Ray Giacoletti of Drake. Drake opening up the week at home against Missouri State on Wednesday. Later in the week, they'll be at Loyola for a Saturday afternoon contest in Chicago. At this time, we'd like to welcome Coach Ray Giacoletti. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Let's talk about Missouri State. You haven't had a lot of time since the Southern game yesterday, but talk about the Bears and what you know of them. And they've got a newcomer that has been winning Newcomer of the Week honors quite a bit this year, Daquan Miller, and playing very well at the point for them. But talk about the rest of their team and what you know of the Bears.
I think, they're much improved, obviously, with already 3 conference wins. Daquan gives them a different look at the point. They have 3 freshmen, I think, that have played well to this point, too, so they're getting help from some other areas with Obadiah Church and Treklow and Dixon. Boone's always tough, hard-nosed, competitor, being able to score it around the basket and rebound the ball. So playing a lot of zone right now and mixing that zone up a little bit from 2-3 to 1-3-1. And I think Paul's done a great job of helping them get the best out of their group right now. So they're much improved as they continue to go through the season here.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get now to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Ray Giacoletti.
Please press star and then number 1 to ask your question. Again, star and then number 1. Our first question comes from Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hi, Ray. I've just been crunching the numbers and seeing that everybody's scoring is basically up. They're allowing more, scoring more. Is that just simply about more possessions? Because it's not like three-point shooting is up and there's not a dramatic increase in free throws either. What do you attribute that to?
That's a good point. I think the 30-second clock, is going to give you a few more possessions each half. Obviously, the new rules. If you have more athletic teams that can drive it, it's going to put you at a disadvantage if you can't defend it. I'd say those 2 things to begin with. I don't know. I think those 2 things really contribute into, the guys now have had half season trying to figure out how the officials are going to call this stuff. And so I think we've all tried to do a good job of showing your hands and not bailing out people on penetration. But it's easier said than done at times.
Thanks a lot, Ray. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Coach, it appears that's the only line of questioning you have this morning. Thank you for your time this morning, and good luck this week.
Thank you.
And we do have Coach Paul Lusk of Missouri State with us. The Bears at Drake on Wednesday. Later in the week, they'll host Southern Illinois on Sunday at a game that'll be shown on ESPN3 at 3 o'clock. Morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
Well, let's preview the Bulldogs. They were coming off of a game against Southern Illinois. They battled back and forth in the second half and lost by 5 at home. Reed Timmer again scoring a lot for them this year, and including again yesterday against the Syracuse. But talk about what you know about the Bulldogs, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, I just watched the Southern game yesterday. It's a very tough game for them. Give Southern a lot of credit. Thought Drake did some good things. What concerns us mostly is just their offensive ability. They got 3 guys that can score it, make shots, and obviously Timmer is, sometimes they talk about a sophomore slump, but there has been None of that with him. He's terrific. I know Ray has moved them off the ball a little bit. Then the 2 transfers really helped him in terms of just being able to put the ball in the basket. So I'll watch more film on them today.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get now to the questions for you. Questions for Coach Paul Lusk.
Press star then the number 1 to ask your question. Star then the number 1. We have a question from Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, good morning, Paul. I know you've got a handful of freshman guys really making a difference for you, and I've heard you talk a little bit about them. Just talk about Church. Is he maybe a little further down the road than maybe you thought he would be? And just talk about your freshmen and how they're contributing.
Yep. Been very pleased with our freshmen. Harry, one young man, Ryan Krecklow, we had really planned on redshirting him. But with all the injuries, Austin Reuter going down, some other things that happened, we had to play him, and that's been a real positive for us because he's a good player. Comes from a good basketball background. His mom and dad are coaches at Mizzou in volleyball. His dad played in the NBA. Jared Dixon's another kid that he's going to be a good player for us, and he's done some positive things. You mentioned Obadiah Church. He's been very good from day one. And from day one, we threw him into the fire. And we had a very challenging schedule early on, but he produced. And he's been pretty consistent. He comes to work every day. He's worked on his 12 to 15-footer. He's developing a low post game. He's very, very coachable. Very coachable. He's a high-level athlete. He's played a lot of minutes for us. He's got a very bright future. He got his first double-double the other day at Bradley. But I think the thing that I like the most about all 3 of those guys, they really want to be here. They care. They let us coach them. They have very, very good people around them. And it's fun to work with them every day.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate it.
You bet, Harry.
Paul, looks like that drilling ran a question this morning. Thank you for your time. Good luck at Drake on Wednesday.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, bye-bye. Trying to get a hold of Coach Barry Hinson, and we'll keep efforting that, but we do have our next coach in the queue. It's Marty Simmons of Evansville. Evansville opening up its week against Loyola at home tomorrow night. That game on CBS Sports Network at 8 o'clock. Later in the week, the Aces will be at Indiana State for a Sunday game on ESPNU at 3 o'clock. At this time, we'd like to welcome Coach Marty Simmons with us, and we'll keep working to get Barry. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Another good week for the Aces. 3 straight wins, 16-3 overall, 5-1 in conference play. Loyola coming off of a big win at Northern Iowa. They're first in the league. Talk about tomorrow night's game for us, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah. Well, they played great, I thought, up there at Northern Iowa. I mean, Loyola is somebody that we have tremendous respect for, and just how hard they play. Porter gets those guys to play extremely hard. What they did defensively is outstanding. I mean, fundamentally they're as good as anybody we play. They play as hard as anybody. They got great length. They got athleticism. They can throw lineups out there. They're very versatile, very unselfish team. But they've just got a lot of guys that have high motors that play extremely hard. And as always, it's going to be a tough challenge.
Thanks, Marty. Let's get down to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Marty Simmons.
If you would like to ask a question, star then the number 1. Again, that's star then the number 1 to ask your question. We have a question from Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, good morning, Marty. Just crunching numbers, and everybody, 8 of the 10 teams are scoring more than last year. 8 of the 10 are giving up more than last year. You're one of the few teams that isn't. Do you attribute that just to more possessions? Is it a combination of more possessions because of the clock and the rules? What do you attribute that to? Because I look at three-point shooting, and the percentages there are actually down. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'd say probably what you just said. I'd say a little bit of all the above. I think certainly the shot clock forces everybody to play at a faster pace. The way getting to the free throw line probably helps that as well.
And what do you attribute, if anything, the three-point shooting is down really across the league?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I mean, probably don't have a good answer for you there. Just teams are guarding it maybe a little bit better would be my guess.
All right, thanks a lot, Marty.
You bet.
Marty, that's it for you. Light week for you today. Thank you for your time. Good luck this week in your games in Loyola tomorrow night.
Thanks, Mike.
All righty. Bye-bye. Or keep working to get Coach Hinson on, and we'll wait for a moment. We're now ahead of schedule with Porter Moser next in our queue. Porter will be on at 10:51, so we'll hold for just a second as we try to get to Coach Hinson on. Couple of notes league-wide. Wichita State now 6-0 and 12-5 overall. The Shockers have climbed in their RPI to a league best 39, and Evansville is second in the conference at 77. The league does rank 13th overall as a conference. Wichita State, meanwhile, a nation's best 41-1 against conference members since the beginning of the 13-14 season. Stephen F. Austin is second on the list in the Southland with a 39-1 record during that time span against conference opponents only. Still no luck with Coach Hinson, but we do have Coach Porter Moser of Loyola on the line with us. Ramblers coming off of their first conference win of the season against Northern Iowa on Saturday, a 10-point win in Cedar Falls, tough place to play, and they're going to another tough place to play tomorrow night at Evansville. Good morning, Porter.
Morning, Mike.
A little lineup shift for you to start the game yesterday, and certainly it was effective in the result. I don't know if that catapulted some of the players to play a little differently, but certainly a 10-point win at Northern Iowa was nothing to sneeze at. Talk about your win against the Panthers, and then look forward to the Evansville Aces tomorrow night.
And I don't think any team in the country needed to win more than we did in terms of confidence. Losing 3 straight by a total of 5 points, and just you simply haven't played like I think we can. And I think some of them just needed to have a different perspective about what they got to do, and maybe coming off the bench was helpful for them. Whatever the case, we played a lot better than we have, and we're going to need to get back into this. We dug ourselves a huge hole and lost some tough ones, right 3 in a row, and we really needed that last one. And we got our work cut out for us, obviously, going to Evansville.
Yeah, your last 4 games defensively, and maybe a combination of milking the clock, but also playing great defense. 54, 56, 54, and 41 points allowed. Certainly your defense has been up to speed.
I don't know if it's because of our offense is so bad, because the games are slower, but I just think, just grinding people out both ends. We're taking the whole 30 seconds and we're not trying to. That's the crazy thing about it. But no, we're going to need to. As I look forward to Evansville, and there's reasons why teams are good and why they're not. And you look at some crazy stats. I mean, they're the most efficient percentage offensive team. They got the highest field goal percentage offensively, and they hold teams the lowest shooting percentage defensively. They're first in our league in both areas, and just extremely efficient on both ends. Seniors playing with tons of confidence, and they're very, very hard on both ends of the floor.
Thank you, Porter. Let's get now to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Porter Moser.
Press star, then the number 1. And your first question is from Daniel Alar with the Evansville Courier.
Hey, Porter. Wanted to ask about Montel James. Looks like he's been a pretty steady contributor for you. What type of player has he been this year, and how has he developed?
He's really been up and down for us, and when we've been pretty good, he's been pretty good. He had his back injury, he missed a handful of games for us, and he really wasn't right. We're hopefully he's getting back in the groove. He's always back from his high school, junior college days, and last year he's always been an above 50% field goal shooter, and he's been hovering in the high 30s and right at 40. So hopefully he can, really continue some things. I like where he's at the last couple days. But clearly him and Milton are our 2 most, gifted offensive players, and they just haven't played to that capabilities. But there certainly are. Their attitudes, I really like the way they've approached practice this last couple days, and they both handled coming off the bench. You couldn't ask for a better attitude the way they handled. Sometimes coaches make moves and you just don't know how they're going to respond. And they were ultra positive coming off the bench as the other group started, and they came in and their play reflected it. So we need Montel to be a low post scorer for us. We haven't had many other guys establish themselves, but we really, if we're going to make a push to improve and move up the standings, he's got to be a key guy for us to establish some things inside.
What's the key to guarding Evansville and their motion offense?
Well, I mean, you're really not. I mean, obviously they've proven it's hard to stop that, but you got to kind of take away open threes and take away open layups. I mean, I know it sounds elementary, but you got to make them make some hard 2s. I mean, they'll get they run their plays, and all of a sudden they'll get such easy baskets at the rim, and they're running more, and they get some easy ones in transition, and they get some open 3s, and you just all of a sudden those open 3s and easy layups add up to about 20 points, easily, and you just got to try to make it a little harder, but they make it look easy. I mean, they run. Marty's got them running that motion, and the veterans, and it's just it's something to watch. They really are efficient.
Thanks.
Coach, that was it for you. Thanks for your time, and good luck this week.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Porter. We'll see you. And again, that's our only game on tomorrow night. Loyola visiting Evansville on CBS Sports Network at 8 o'clock Central. Our next scheduled coach is Brian Worrell of Bradley. Bradley opening up the week with a home game against Illinois State on Wednesday. Later in the week, the Braves are at Wichita State on Saturday. Both games can be seen on ESPN3. And we will hold just for a moment until Coach Wardle joins us. couple of ticket notes for media on the call before Coach joins us. We have single session tickets that will be going on sale today for Arch Madness. We'll have our first ticketing report from the schools. We're gathering that. We should have it as early as tomorrow, and maybe later this week for sure. But we'll get you that information on tickets sold by the institutions this week. Potential applications for the tournament are also open. I know many of you have already applied and gotten your confirmations, but if you have not, please visit our site or I'll get you the credential link for it. As we wait for Coach, just a couple of notes on freshman performances in the league. Of course, the Braves are the youngest team in America with 10 freshmen representing the team. They have 5 of the top 7 scorers among freshman players, 5 of the top 7 rebounders in terms of total rebounders, and 4 of the top 7 in terms of the total assists. Missouri State occupying those 3 other spots among the assist leaders among freshman players in the conference. And we do have the coach of the Bradley Braves with us. Bradley again opening up its week against Illinois State at home on Wednesday. And at this time, we'd like to welcome Coach Brian Wardle to the line. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Well, Illinois State, I-74 series rivalry, your first foray into that, and certainly Illinois State in desperate need of a win, having lost their last 3. They're 3-3 in the conference after starting 3-0. But talk about the series of what you know of it, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, I just know that it's obviously been a rivalry for quite a long time, being so close to each other, and I think a lot of kids on each team from the same areas, recruiting purposes. So, I mean, it's a big deal. I know it's a big deal in Peoria, and it's a big deal in Bloomington, so we're obviously excited to be a part of it, and we're going to have to play very well because I think Illinois State, there's no doubt they're very talented. They got a lot of quickness, a lot of guys that can go off the dribble. And if they're shooting the 3 well, they're very, very hard to beat. So we're going to have our hands full defensively and keeping their athleticism off the glass. And offensively, it's just going to be a matter of us taking care of the ball and making shots. I mean, we just haven't shot the ball well, obviously, this year, and been spending a lot of time on it. And so hopefully one of these nights we can break out and knock down some shots, and we're going to need to against this team.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get now to the questions for Coach Brian Wardle. Questions from the media.
Press stars and the number 1 to ask your question. Stars and the number 1. Our first question comes from Jim Benson with the Bloomington Pantagraph.
Brian, I see Barker kind of had a couple good games last week. Could you just talk a little bit about his development and what he kind of gives you when he's playing like that?
Well, obviously for a freshman, he's come along this season. I think it all has to do with this. He's got a little more confidence because he's not in foul trouble, and that's why we've been bringing him off the bench. He's trying to learn how to be. He's a very physical young man, and he's trying to learn how to keep his hands off and not foul as much. And I think just him being able to stay on the floor and find rhythm and confidence has really helped him. And now we got to give him the ball down there. He's very strong. I think he's learning that he's got to make quicker moves and chin the ball more. But him and Luke Van Bray, have been starting to play better in conference play, so that's been positive for our program.
Obviously, there's a lot always talked about freshmen hitting the wall. When you have so many freshmen hitting the wall, that could be a tough thing for a team like yours. But do you think the guys have kind of handled the grind of a season pretty well so far as just kind of trying to move forward?
Yeah, they've been a pretty positive group. They're learning the work ethic that it takes. I think that's been a big adjustment for them. It's just the work and the taking care of your body, the weight room, the extra shooting, the extra film, all those things that it is required to be a good program and a good Division I player. I'm teaching, 10 guys that this year. So we have been inconsistent. We've had inconsistent play. But we have had bright spots. I mean, every player has kind of shown a 5-game stretch here or there. We just have not put a stretch together as a group yet. So hopefully we still got that in us as this conference play goes on.
And you obviously played Illinois State last year in NIT when you were at Green Bay. Does that give you a little bit better field maybe than you have for some of the other conference teams facing them the first time?
I guess so. I mean, personnel-wise, I obviously know their personnel a little bit better than some of the other teams. I played the majority of Valley teams when I was at Green Bay, but, Illinois State's the freshest in my mind as the former coach there. So, yeah, maybe it does. But really, you got to go out and play that game. And they're very similar, I think, to last year, except they don't, probably throw it inside as much inside to the post. But they're very athletic. They're quick. They can get to the rim and transition. They can get to the offensive glass. We're going to have to do a good job of guarding the dribble and being physical because they are upperclassmen, and I think they got very strong bodies and are physical around the glass. So we're going to have to do a good job there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Your next question is for Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, Brian, I don't know if you're keeping close tabs with John Harris there at SIUE, but both of you guys trying to rebuild programs, and both of you got your first conference wins last week. How big was that win for you guys, and can you imagine, he's just walking through similar things? Yeah,
it's getting a conference win, especially getting a road win, is really nice for this young group to feel because it's very hard to win on the road, especially with what we have when it comes to experience. And so I was proud that we could get a road win and get one win under our belt. But the consistency part and building off that, obviously we got to improve on and continue to work on. But John, I know he's a very good coach. He's a very bright guy. And I'm excited for him there. And it takes time. I mean, nothing happens overnight, especially if you're trying to build a program and not a team. I like to say that a lot is that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build it the right way and build something to last. And it's going to take a little time, especially if you're trying to do it the right way. And John is doing that.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Your next question is from Paul Sulentrop with the Wichita Eagle.
Hello, Brian. After you get that road win, how did that change or help practices, I guess maybe from the standpoint of giving your players kind of evidence about, okay, here's what we're doing, and now it can work?
Well, I think we had some good practices after that, but then we got into, that we followed it up at home and we didn't shoot the ball well again. We let our offense dictate our defense, and then all the little details and all the discipline that we had to get that road win kind of went out the door again at home against Missouri State. So we still have a long ways to go. We worked extremely hard after that win. We didn't let up at all. We tried to build off it, but again, this group, struggled to put it together when things weren't going well offensively, and we got to just find a way to take care of the ball, keep our confidence offensively, and remember that discipline defensively and rebounding is critical for our group this year to win, and we got to maintain that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Coach, that was your final question. Thank you for your time and good luck this week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Okay, next to our next coach in the queue, it is Illinois State's Dan Muller. Illinois State opening up the week for a game at Bradley on Wednesday. Redbirds back at home on Saturday to face Northern Iowa on the NBC television network. This time we do welcome Coach Dan Muller. Morning, Dan.
Hey. Morning, Mike. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Let's talk about the game at Bradley, another I-74 series, and Coach Wardle his first game in the series as a coach. Talk about the series, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Yeah, always an exciting game. It's certainly a rivalry that has, I'm sure everybody knows, I took part in as a player, and means a little bit more to each fan base. But in the end of the day, it's another road game in the conference that will be challenging. Bradley with a big win against Loyola, recently, and all those young guys, and Brian's doing a great job bringing them along. So we've lost 3 in a row. We've got to play better basketball, and we've got a great practice today and tomorrow, and follow it up with playing the right way on Wednesday.
Thanks, Dan. Let's get now to the questions from the media for Coach Dan Muller.
Press star and the number 1 to ask your question. And our first question is from Dave Reynolds with the Peoria Journal-Star.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dave.
Your last 3 games, has that been a result of playing strong teams, or have you just not played well?
That's a great question. I think it's a little bit of both. I actually thought we played some very good basketball at Indiana State and at Southern. We got leads, but it's not just because of the leads. I thought offensively we executed as well as we had all year. Evansville, I don't think we played very good basketball. So I think it's a combination of both. You play worse when you're playing better teams because they make you play worse, but in the same respect, you can look at the film and see our execution issues, see our issues defensively, and we know why we lost.
So defense, maybe the top culprit as far as the Evansville game goes?
Actually, to be honest, no. Not that we held them to a great field goal percentage, but our offense was our bigger issue against Evansville. If we hold Evansville to 66 points, we forced 16 turnovers. They did shoot 50% from the field, but they were 58 in the first half, and we had forced 10 turnovers. So we couldn't execute offensively. We shot 30% from the field. We took bad shots. We missed some good ones. We only got to the foul line 4 times. Offense was a bigger issue against Evansville for us.
And you've had, regarding the series with Bradley, you've had teams that came into this game that really hadn't had much history in the rivalry, a lot of new guys. Brian's facing that this year. Do you recall how that affected your guys? Did it make much difference in how they played?
Not really, Dave. I mean, it's, rivalry games are important, and there's a fine balance, I think, because as a coach, you always, every game's the same. You want to take it one game at a time, and but you also want to explain to new guys. My second year here, I had 10 new players, and so similar to Brian, we explained that it does mean more to fans. It is an important game, but you make too much of it, and you feel like, as a coach, as I did, you feel like you're saying this is a bigger game than the rest. So that ball tips up. It still comes down to who executes, who competes harder, who plays smarter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Our next question is Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I wanted to ask you about your freshman Griffin, just trying to keep up with some of the younger guys. What's he brought to you guys, and how do you feel like he's progressing for his freshman year?
Yeah, hey, he was progressing great. Rowe has had he sprained his big toe. They call it turf toe at Drake. And to that point, he had actually started 2 games in a row going into that game. He was playing some very good basketball. Gives us great depth at the wing, shooting it well. 6'6", 6'7" athlete, can guard multiple positions, good ball handler. We've missed him tremendously. He's missed, I think, 3 or 4 games. I can't remember. He's missed 3 games, and then he played against Evansville 8 minutes and was probably about 65%. Could hardly move. So we hope to get him back. I think when he's healthy, he's one of the better freshmen in our league. The problem is I don't know when that will be again.
Still a ways off, and I don't know if you've paid enough attention or really thinking about freshmen and all that around the league, but are there any of those freshmen from the other teams that have kind of stood out to you?
That's a tough question because you go into each game. You'd have to remind me of some of them, although there's not a lot. I mean, some years you do have a lot of freshmen who stand out and are going to be this or that. To this point, the teams that we've played, it's been mostly older guys. I mean, there aren't many teams that we've played that have had impact freshmen at all. Who are the best ones? I couldn't even tell you right now who the guys are.
Well, probably McDuffie at Wichita State is one of those guys, but just wondering if anybody had actually just stood out to you. So that's a good enough answer. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we haven't played Wichita State yet, but no,
right.
No, a lot of old. We've been playing a lot of old teams as we are. Again, I think if Roland were healthy, he'd be a guy who people would say is standing out in our non-conference. He had some big-time games, but we need him. We need him. So hopefully he gets healthy, and he'll be one of those guys pretty soon.
So he's maybe a week or two away still?
You know, he played, and we had 2 days off. We actually had Saturday and Sunday off, so I have not seen him yet today. I don't know how far he is away from being even close to 100%, 95%. I just know that he can hardly move, and I got to, as all coaches, you try to figure out, you know, is it better to sit him longer or to have him play through it, or will it get better as he plays, and talking to the trainers and doctors daily about it.
Thanks, Dan. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Dan, that was your final question. Thank you for your time and good luck this week.
Okay, thank you.
All right, see you then. We're working to get a hold of Coach Greg Marshall of Wichita State and striking out for the time being. We'll keep trying for just another minute or so, and we'll hold for just a second while we get a hold of Greg Marshall. We will ask the media or the beat writers to please stay on the line with or without Greg. Afterward, we'll have a round table of our beat writers, and we'll run through that real quick. A little worried about today's with the holiday and trying to get people in the office and on their cell phones. So 8 out of 10 is not too bad. Of course, we mentioned earlier that Wichita State, the nation's best, 41-1 in their last 42 conference games. The one loss, at Northern Iowa. Their opponent on Wednesday. And it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get a hold of Coach Marshall. We'll have him next week, of course, and we'll ask the beat writers to please stay on the line for a brief roundtable of our beat writers. And Stephanie and Hillary, if we can stop trying to get a hold of Coach Marshall, we'll assume he's going to be unavailable.
Certainly, sir.